It's out there. Sam rinses blood from his torn sleeve at the shallow ford, eyes vacant. He studies the upstream mist pockets that refuse to burn off. A thin whistle answers itself from 2 directions across the water. He shoulders his pack, choosing the cold current over the tree line. He steps into the current, letting the icy shock numb thought. Sunlit murals and tourists drift by as Sam walks thinner, grayer, distant. He passes the peeling flyer without looking, eyes lost beyond glass. A pickup radio mumbles local news as he hesitates at the curb. He turns the corner, slipping into a wash of light and shadow. The crowd carries on, the flyer flutters once and lies still. Fluorescents hum as Sam faces the sheriff across a cluttered desk. Sam slides a plaster cast forward, voice thin but insistent. He stammers through what happened by the falls, words catching. The sheriff's pen stills, doubt softens to dread in the silence. Dim blinds stripe the room as Sam studies a pin-specked wall map. A knock breaks the stillness. Sam hesitates, then opens the door. Amelia stands composed, grief set in her jaw, a photo in hand. Sam lets her in. The photo lands on the table between them. Sam bolts from camp, panic dragging him into the lightless trees. Amelia's voice fades behind as Sam plunges into a narrowing corridor. Peter hesitates, then freezes by the gear as the woods twist. Sam's pace falters, as the forest seems to slide sideways around him. He turns blindly into the darker route, swallowed by repeating pillars. Fog braids between trunks as Sam kills his light and listens. 2 immense silhouettes slip across a gap, their mass unsettlingly silent. Sap slicks under Sam's palms as he flattens to the bark, scarcely blinking. A pebble taps near his boot and rolls away, deliberate as a message. He edges backward into thicker fog, never turning his face from the gap. A violent crack splits the camp as the storm hammers the forest. Fabric rips. A ragged scream cuts short somewhere inside the tent. Jimmy's headlamp slices rain as he catches a blur vanishing upslope. M shouts Izzy's name into thunder, while the forest swallows the sound. Sam flails after the trail, rain blinding, as thunder rolls overhead. Mud churns where the tent stood, rain drums as breath steadies shakily. Sam clutches a torn notebook page, knuckles white, eyes unfocused. Dan films tremulously, voice thin, tracing deep depressions uphill. Jimmy argues for a disciplined track, while M scans for blood sign. The waterfall roars like a crowd, washing every trace toward the gorge. They step into the scar of the old camp, air heavy with memory. Sam touches the ash-black earth where the tent once stood. Amelia places a small silver pendant on the fire ring, hands steady. Peter builds a lattice of cameras, syncing time codes with clipped precision. Sam and Amelia confer softly, the woods seeming to press closer. Sam explains how trails braid and blind pockets form near gullies. He marks the corridor, boots planted, mapping risk into the terrain. Amelia listens, grief harnessed, recording waypoints with care. Peter sweeps uphill with thermal, catching brief, vanishing hot blooms. They place reflective tacks that wink like tiny stars among the trunks. Tents rise in a practiced rhythm as dusk cools the clearing. Sam insists on tighter formation and low light. Amelia agrees. Peter arms recorders, while the spoon chime tinkles, then stills. Food stays cold. The forest seems to listen from the tree line. They settle in, every detail trimmed to silence and smallness. Darkness gathers into a presence between trunks at the camp edge. Amelia tapes over tally lights, checking each camera with deliberate care. Their eyes meet across the ember glow, a silent pact of vigilance. An owl calls. A deeper, alien tone answers from much larger lungs. A pebble clicks against metal and rolls to a stop near their boots. Peter proposes thermal sweeps. Pairs form as the woods narrow in. Sam and Amelia step into a corridor of trunks. Radios sputter to static. The trees press close. Breath shortens. Every step sounds too loud. Sam halts, sensing a gaze. A faint heat smear recoils in the brush. The radio hisses uselessly as the forest seems to inhale and wait. Sam mixes plaster, steadying his breath as sunlight needles the bank. Dan frames the print, narrating landmarks with a steady clinical tone. M circles wide, shooting oblique photos to capture depth and relief. Jimmy posts a camera on the game path, testing the sensor with a hand sweep. Izzy sketches scale bars, head bent, as the forest's hush presses closer. Jimmy pushes through salmonberry, lifting a camera high onto a resinous cedar. Sam calls out coordinates, steady voice, as Dan logs on a tablet. M pauses, studying a woven branch arch 9 feet up, not windfall. Izzy whispers an old legend, gaze fixed upward, voice nearly swallowed. Dan pivots the tablet to confirm timecodes sync across the lattice. Firelight licks trunks as Sam sets the drying cast by the ring, hopeful. M traces gate angles in the dirt as Jimmy sharpens a stick, listening out. Dan replays a low hum on his recorder. Izzy translates a tale of watchers. A distant bass howl rises, insects cut off as everyone holds their breath. A volley of knocks rolls across ridges. M whispers, it matches no known fauna. A stone lands just beyond the light, sliding through needles to a stop. Jimmy steps in front of Izzy, posture protective, eyes on the tree line. Dan swings his camera toward 2 faint glowing eyes that blink, then vanish. Wind lifts the tarps as Sam checks stakes. Rain begins to needle canvas. M and Jimmy hunch over the sample case, shielding it from the gusts. Dan zips gear inside as thunder rolls, his silhouette flickers in the tent. Izzy writes by lantern, beyond the tarp edge, a vast shape ghosts between trees. Thunder shudders the ground. Lines sing as the storm fully arrives. A massive hand fills the frame, grime and matted hair dragging over the lens. The hand tilts the camera, revealing a towering figure striding past. For a heartbeat, 2 shapes overlap, moving with eerie coordination. The frame jolts as the camera is lifted, horizon rolling over treetops. Static blooms, a final glimpse of a colossal form before the feed dies. Alone in the hallway, the sheriff stares at the viewing room door. He approaches the bulletin board, faces staring back under flicker. The sheriff lifts Sam's photo from the board, jaw tight, haunted. He glances toward the dark window, as a spruce creaks outside. A patrol car idles near the misted river at first light. Sam's empty SUV sits dew-coated, pollen filmed across the windshield. Footprints lead from the driver's side into the trees and simply stop. The river drifts past as a single crow calls and goes silent. The camera glides through cathedral firs, fog weaving between pillars. A distant figure crosses between trees, dissolving into mist. Undergrowth quivers, as if exhaling after holding a long breath. Somewhere deep, Two soft rock knocks answer each other like punctuation. Black holds the screen. White letters begin to appear, stark and final. The epilogue line hangs. Some things are meant to remain out there. Mist webs through Huckleberry as Dan's bandana flashes, then disappears. Sam lunges toward the cedar, breath hitching as silence swallows the cry. He finds the EMF meter ticking in the duff, red LEDs pulsing. M calls into muffling mist, while Jimmy urges movement, nerves fraying. Sam pockets the meter, realizing they are flanked in the white silence. They reach the torn campsite. Jimmy coaxes damp wood as sparks sputter. Sam wraps a blanket around M. Exhaustion rings both their eyes. A pair of eyes glows beyond the firelight, motionless in the understory. Sam rises slowly, attention locked outward, every motion deliberate. From the dark, a brutal impact slams him down. His head strikes rock. Rain whispers as Sam wakes dazed, crawling for the fallen cedar. A bipedal shape moves beyond, breath fogs pale in the cold air. He snakes beneath the log as the ground trembles with measured steps. A stone taps the trunk inches from his face and rolls away into darkness. Sam rolls into the black water. Cold clamps every muscle at once. Branches claw his jacket as the current drags him down the bend. He surfaces at a bend, listening, fear reflecting in his eyes. He ducks again, surrendering to the current toward a dim gravel bar. Mist pools on a logging spur as Sam staggers onto rusted culverts. He spots Izzy's mud-caked SUV half hidden by alder and moss. Hands shaking, he works the column. A spark pops beneath the wheel. The engine coughs alive as something large shifts at the tree line. He floors it toward town, leaving the road swallowed by gray. The team files past mossy trunks as the sun turns mist to gold. Jimmy pins a waypoint as Dan lingers behind with the camcorder. Sam calls the line tighter while M watches the canopy for omens. Dan captures B-roll as Jimmy checks wind and points downriver. M meets Sam's eye. The forest seems to hold its breath. They emerge onto granite above a foaming pool as light fades violet. Jimmy calls wind direction while Dan watches an EMF spike climb. Izzy murmurs over rubbings as Sam records coordinates in his journal. M lifts the snagged hair. Jimmy shields her sample from the mist. Dan's EMF jitters off scale. Izzy and Sam trade a worried glance. Tarps climb between firs as the breeze makes guy lines hum. Jimmy coaxes tinder. Firelight paints orange on slick trunks. Sam and Dan plan overlapping camera arcs on a rough sketch map. Izzy organizes notes and a recorder while M pauses, sensing attention. A deep, far thud rolls through the trees. Everyone pauses mid-task. Stars prick canopy gaps as M listens, and the fire sinks to coals. Sam passes a dented thermos to Jimmy near the stream's glimmer. A distant stone clack answers another, off rhythm in the dark. Dan notes the time as M's gaze snaps toward a deeper shadow. Ash drifts like gray snow, while the forest holds a new, strange hush. Sun breaks across riffles as Sam kneels by an enormous footprint. Dan films close while M measures stride as Jimmy scans uphill. Izzy bags coarse hairs as Jimmy watches the slope, hand on his blade. Sam photographs dermal ridges while M calls out each measurement. Dan tracks the impressions upstream as Jimmy signals a cautious hold. Fog drifts across the ridge as Sam and Amelia kill their lights and listen. A rhythmic whoop, rises below, and is answered from farther off. Amelia squeezes Sam's forearm, both prepare to back away quietly. Shapes thicken in the fog, hulking forms that refuse to resolve. Sam mouths a whisper to fall back as the fog slides between them. Peter steadies the thermal scope behind a stump, breath shaking. The display blooms with towering heat signatures moving in arcs. Sam slides in beside Peter, eyes narrowing at the coordinated movement. Sam hisses that the two downtrail pairs have no radio's urgency spikes. They angle the scope wider, revealing more heat forms sliding downslope. Peter cups his hands and yells toward the dark, voice fraying. Amelia calls names until her throat rasps beside Sam's tense silhouette. From the black, a human scream tears the night, high and ragged. Branches thrash downslope, frantic crashing moving away and then across. Peter swings the scope, heat masses converge beyond their sightline. A flashlight beam whips between trunks as a young hiker barrels downslope. Sam lurches to go after her, but Amelia grabs his sleeve and holds. The beam jolts, skittering wildly, then plunges into darker understory. Emma's sobs thin to echoes. The forest swallows her path. Sam's breath ghosts as he hesitates, torn between pursuit and defense. Back at camp, branches snap just beyond the ring of taped lantern light. She whispers to Peter about the angles. He confirms the rigs are rolling. Heavy pacing circles just out of sight, measured and deliberate. A thrown stick clacks off a pot, the sound dies into a bass, chest-deep rumble. Something vast exhales beyond the trees. The camp seems to shrink inward. Panic finally tears loose. Sam bolts from the camp into the dark. Amelia calls after him, her voice swallowed by trees and fear. Peter turns, torn, then anchors himself by the humming equipment. The woods seem to tilt, trunks align into a shifting maze ahead of Sam. Breath ragged, Sam vanishes into the dark lanes between the firs.